Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right, so talked a little bit about the Lakers earlier today for about 45 minutes until the insane individual outside my window started cussing in Spanish. Had to cut the video, but yeah, man, it was a situation where I just looked at the standings. The Lakers are in third place. I like what I see there, and we're kind of on a crash collision course with the Orlando Magic tomorrow, or rather the 21st, which is Friday. And of course, that's kind of scared by the fact that the Orlando Magic do have a game tomorrow against the Clippers before playing us the following day. So they could very well lose that winning streak or extend it to 7. But all things equal, we're kind of on the same path. They've played a bunch of depleted teams and won 6 in a row. We've played a bunch of depleted teams and won 6 in a row. They are missing one of their best players in Paolo Banchero. And this isn't my official video on the Magic, by the way. We'll do that 2 days from now. I haven't even watched highlights yet of all those games, but just glancing at what they've been doing, all the teams that they've played just like us have been depleted, man. All of them, like everybody. They saw the shorthanded Phoenix Suns, the Wizards. They saw just everybody who's missing people. Philadelphia, just like we did, you know. A bunch of teams that are either tanking or missing a lot of players or both. So, yeah, man, I think that this is going to be a real serious matchup, assuming they beat the Clippers tomorrow. You know, this is a something gotta give type of situation. So, I think we should be fairly excited about it. Of course, a whole basketball game needs to be played for them tomorrow, which could kind of change the dynamic of things. I remember one year I was looking forward to a certain matchup that was like this, but they had a game with the Clippers before seeing us the following night, and one of their best players ended up getting hurt in that Clipper game, so it changed the dynamic of what it is I was anticipating. So at this point, you got to let games play themselves out, man. A lot of things can happen between now and the 21st, but we definitely need to be very aware of the Orlando Magic kind of being in the exact same boat, surging in the exact same way that we are. And you got to just be prepared for something to give. Something has to give, you know? So that's really what I'm saying to you guys, man. I definitely am excited about this particular matchup as a Laker fan. It's a measuring stick for us. Last time we had a measuring stick game, in my opinion, we lost. It was the Cleveland matchup, and Cleveland just, I mean, they really danced on our heads, man. It was bad. And with the exception of the Spurs, I don't think we've really seen a good team since. I really don't, man. We've seen Memphis, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Memphis beat us after that. But, like, you know, they weren't any good. Even losing to them, you know, helps us understand that we were not in a good space when that happened, because they weren't who they needed to be, who they're now going to become as they get healthy. So, you know, this is the real measuring stick game for me thus far. And of course, we have a serious stretch of games. After that, Denver's coming up. You know how we fare with them for the most part. Ironically enough, if the playoffs were to start today, that's who we'd see in the first round. You know, for all your troubles in getting the 3rd overall spot, you would run into the Denver Nuggets at the 6th overall spot. So hopefully that does not hold up, because I would much rather avoid them. To be honest with you, I don't have no interest in seeing Denver at all this year. Not just because we had trouble with them, but because we've seen them 2 years in a row. Enough. Give me a different path in the playoffs, man. I'm sick of running into Jokers. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But, yeah, man, I think with this game being in our house and the fact that we haven't lost a game at home, it's even more on the line. It's even more on the line. So, I don't know what's going on with Vanderbilt. We talked at length about him this morning, and from what I understand, there's no update. Which is, I mean, I guess you just learn to live with this type of stuff as a fan of sports. Injuries happen. Sometimes re-injuries take place when you rush guys back. So you just hope for some positive updates. Last time I saw him, he didn't look that great, but he was shooting the ball, so I wasn't complaining. But he didn't look like he was exactly 2 weeks away. So, you know, I'm not surprised that there's not really a positive update, but we saw him, he's with the team, so that's a good thing. And I think he's such an important piece to work back into the equation that it would be a real blessing if he came back sooner than later so we can start that process. Because we got a new coach, and Vanderbilt is a piece that needs to be worked in a very special way. You can't just throw him on the floor, as we talked at length about earlier today. So, yeah, man, I really want the Lakers to just try to get healthy, I guess is the words I'll say. I mean, I don't really know. If I'm really being honest, I want them to make a trade, man. But I don't think that that's realistic, and so I'm not going around trade talking too much. You know, it's not that I don't think our GM wants to make a deal. It's not even that I don't think we would be able to make a deal in a lot of situations. I just think this is one of them weird eras where the CBA really gets in the way of what is responsible to do. And it gets in the way of how many teams are able to do deals with you. For example, a team like Milwaukee would probably love to do a deal with us. But because of how things are set up, they may not be able to move certain things in a certain way. It may not be possible for them. You know what I mean? So that kind of thing it's a little frustrating, man. Because the CBA really does lock teams in. Like, it's good for continuity, for which we believe in, but it's bad for getting out of bad situations, you know? And so that's kind of what it is that we've been talking about all summer long. We're frustrated about it. We're hoping that we can just see our team improve some without having to make deals, and I think J.J. Redick has done a good job of helping us do that. I think our backup point guard situation has been settled for the most part, with D'Angelo Russell now being pushed to the bench. We can count on him to kind of play make in the second unit. I told you, Gabe Vincent was not a point guard. He's not going to play make. He may get an assist here and there, but no more than anybody else who's playing the game and just happens to pass to somebody who hits a shot afterward. He's not a playmaker. I've listened to so many people for a year and a half make the argument that we didn't need a backup point guard because Gabe Vincent's going to be able to slot into the role. He can play the point guard position, but you can't expect him to do it in a playmaking way. You better have other passers on the floor. You know, and it's like, here I am feeling vindicated on that one, because we look up and he's not asked to do any playmaking, and when he does have the ball in his hands, he's launching shots. That's his game. I told people he's like what's his name, like a defensive player who can kind of hit some shots here and there, but like as far as him being what you would consider a connective piece, he's not a negative passing asset, so to speak, but just because he's 6'3" doesn't mean he's going to be able to run your offense and just run that point guard position very well. And so that's my problem. I just want folks to understand, like, we don't have that piece in place without D'Lo going to the bench, especially since Jalen Hood-Schifino is no longer a part of the rotation, or never was, and we're not necessarily grooming him to be that point guard for us this season. You really needed D'Angelo Russell in that second unit to play that role. And so, you know, JJ moving these guys around has kind of solved some in-roster issues without having to make any moves, and I think we're going to have to keep on tweaking to find ways of doing that. I think our next big assignment, in my opinion, is to try to find a way to get better cleaning up the defensive glass, because we're hemorrhaging offensive rebounds entirely too much. And so if we can find a way to switch some things up to become a better rebounding team, I think that'll help the team. But as long as we're continuing to look the way that we are, I'm always worried that we're going to run into a good team, have some of these same issues we've had over the last 6 games where we've won, and end up having it cost us games. Good scoring teams that often rebound the ball very well. That's the thing right there. Teams that can play a little defense, who can score some and rebound the ball well. Worried about that. So, for me, you know, our transition defensive issue, we've improved some. We're still not great at all. In fact, we're still bad. But, you know, moving some defensive players around, getting Max incorporated into the situation helps. Helps a lot. Cam Reddish moving to the starting lineup obviously helps a lot. And, you know, I think that we also kind of benefit from Rui Hachimura not being in the lineup in that way. I think he might be a problem in that way too. Next to Bron, next to AD. Now you got Rui, another big guy, who's not exactly a speed demon in transition. So, you know, I've been pondering since my last video on whether or not I think we should consider moving Rui to the bench. And I think the answer is not right now, but it should be the goal to experiment with lineups that allow for Dalton to play the 3 and see if it works. I don't know if I want to start that way, because if we get off to a slow start or we commit to that and we then mess up what it is that's ultimately making us a winning team right now, obviously we regret that. If something's working, you don't want to opt away from it. But if something could be tweaked a little bit, maybe you can work it out in game and see if it works. And then maybe if it works in a dramatic way, start the games with it. So that's kind of how you do it. You tiptoe in. You don't just jump in the water. You put your toe in, see what the temperature is. I think that's what you do in regards to that particular thing. So I would expect Rui would probably be coming back to the starting lineup. But if we don't like what we see, we can immediately get away from that. So that's what's more important to me, is being flexible rather than finding something and then sticking to it, whether it works or not. I just don't believe in that. I believe in in-game adjustments, constant roster rotational options if necessary, you know? Fluidity about how we do things. So yeah, that's where my head is right now. Super excited about how Dalton Knecht was shooting the ball, to say the least. I think everybody's excited about him potentially being some all-star level player, which I definitely think he can be. But he's going to have to contribute in other areas, and I think that's something I actually count on him to do more so than a lot of shooters, to be honest with you. I like him rebounding the ball a bit better. I think our rebound is actually better with him on the floor. I think his length defensively, once he learns how to position himself better defensively, I think his length is going to be extremely disruptive. I think his passing game is pretty solid, definitely for what it is we want him to be. You know, so this is a guy who can get a couple of rebounds, 7 rebounds, 2 steals on top of whatever shooting that he does. And that's really what you need. You need him to really contribute in other areas and be a positive, whether the shot is falling or not. And he's proven that he has enough intangibles in his game and enough basketball IQ, particularly on the offensive end, to really help. You know, I remember in a preseason game where he got like 5 or 6 offensive rebounds. Like that type of look, when you're helping in that way and you're hitting shots like a madman, you really help your team. And one of the reasons why Klay Thompson is because you can count on him to not only be a magnificent shooter, but he also had defensive gifts that allow for you to feel great about him being on the floor. So that's where Dalton's going to have to win. Not necessarily turn into a defensive dynamo, but make it so that you want him on the floor for other things than his shooting ability. And so far, to be honest with you, so good. I've been pretty pleased with him in that way. So yeah, man, I like Dalton a lot, man. I'm glad he's here. I want us to continue to work him into our regular offensive equation. Give ourselves as many easy opportunity at buckets as possible, because it's a lot of energy exerted for the Lakers to score. That's what I want people to understand. And, you know, I mean, if you listen to my last couple of videos, you probably think I'm souring on Austin Reeves. I'm really not. I just think that there are easier ways that he can play. There are ways for his game to be a lot more energy efficient. And I think he's wired to kind of exert a lot of energy and fall all over the ground and continue to play a lot. But I just think that there's easier ways to get our offense going than his style. And since he loves to do what he does, you put the ball in his hand as your point guard, and you got a lot of that going on. And you saw where when you kind of just get away from him and let the offense kind of cater to people like Dalton and AD, you get easier buckets. Everybody else around him is working less hard to get your offense going. It's less energy exerted on the offensive end. And I just think that holds a lot of weight when you're talking about older guys. You know what I mean? Like Bron and AD, Gabe Vincent. Some of these guys have been in the league for a while. They don't need to be exerting so much energy And I just think that Austin Reaves tends to spark loose ball situations, lots of situations where you got to rebound the ball because he's bricking and stuff like that. So you got to go for offensive boards. That's more pushing and shoving. It's just a harder way to play. And if I have anything that I notice about Austin at the one, is that everybody has to play harder just to kind of react to what it is that he does. So I would love for somebody who's a greater basketball mind to kind of give me some guidance if what I'm looking at makes any sense. But when I saw yesterday Dalton Knecht taking all those shots, what I saw was people getting rest while they're on the floor. And you don't want stand around offense. Don't get it twisted. We hate stand around offense. But if your shooter is shooting so well that you can get away with it consistently, you can buy yourself a breather so that Bron can exert more energy on the defensive end on the boards and have more left in the tank. That's probably a better way to go. You know, with D'Lo Russell, my problem with D'Lo is he was similar in the sense that even though he doesn't do a lot of pounding to the basketball necessarily, he has a slow, methodical game that kind of slows it down. It's still a lot of missed shots going on when he's shooting the ball. It's still turnovers and stuff like that, and you got to work harder on the defensive end because he's always going to be someone who's getting targeted, and it makes you scramble more, all different types of stuff like that. You know, and I just think that makes games harder, like literally harder for you. So I don't know, man. Maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, but I'm not in love with Austin at the one. I'm not in love with it because what it does is it puts the ball in his hands a lot, and what he does is shoot the ball a lot. He is not a selfish player. I don't want people to think that I equate that to him being selfish. Not at all. In fact, he's one of our better passers, and I trust him as a playmaker. I really do. I think he's an unselfish player. And he's one of the rare kind of guys that shoot too much, but is consistently unselfish. It's weird. It's very weird. I don't think I've seen too many players like him in our uniform. I don't have the problem saying, Austin, would you just pass the ball? Not necessarily. But I am saying, Austin, would you please not shoot it so much? And sometimes that's not his fault because he ends up getting the ball and wind it down situations, shot clock running down, so he has to launch something. So it's not like every one of his missed shots is off the strength of him not doing things the way I want him to do it. But it's just so much, and he's getting to the line, he's hunting fouls, which can be a positive thing for us. I like the fact that he knows how to garner the whistle. It really helps when he's missing shots that he gets to the line. So I really love that aggression, and that's something that makes me really appreciate him being on my team, because a lot of guys who brick like that, they don't know how to gain the whistle. They don't know how to hunt out fouls to make up the difference. So these are things that make me say, okay, I like Austin on my team. I want Austin on my team. I'm not interested in trading Austin. I just don't want to be so reliant upon his style of point guarding. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to be relying on his style of point guard. If I want to opt into that, cool. If I can put him at the 2 and have him off the ball so much of what's going on isn't under his control, I think I'm probably going to go with that myself. You know? So it's a very strange dynamic there. But that's exactly how I see it. I just think we're having too many inefficient nights with Austin. And some of those possessions, we're having a hard time connecting on them. We are a nice offensive rebounding team, so I don't want people to think that we're not rebounding these boards, these brick shots, because we really are. I think our issue is on the other side defensively. Keeping the other team from second chance opportunities is really where we struggle. But still, you know, it's like it requires a lot to keep up with Austin, it seems. And, you know, I mean, it's needed when you don't have Dalton Knecht, if I'm being honest with you, when you don't have that go-to scorer next to AD and Bron to kind of pull away from all of those possessions where Austin would otherwise be free to kind of just do his thing. But now that we have that piece in place, it's like, okay, Austin, I may need you to do that maybe 5 or 6 times a game. I don't need you to do that 15, 20 times a game. I need those shots to go to the easier bucket getter. AD and Dalton are the easy bucket getters. Dalton from behind the arc, easy bucket getter. AD, pretty much anywhere at this point, easy bucket getter. Just dump it to him and back off. Get yourself 8-9 assists a night. You know what I mean? And Austin's so gifted passing the rock that I can tell him to go get me 10 assists and expect that he to do it. That's the thing about Austin. Like, bro, shave off some of them scoring opportunities and all them long three-point shots you want to take and make a couple extra plays for other people. Get the ball to the easy bucket getters. Get yourself some easy assists. You know what I mean? It's like, dog, you don't have a problem passing the rock as it pertains to your court vision, your accuracy passing, you know, your decision making. I don't have no problem with you doing any of that stuff. You're good at it. Do it more. Because you're better at it than you are from possession to possession looking to score. Just are. You're a good scorer, but I don't need you to be Kobe in this rotation, bro. When I got Klay Thompson, you know what I mean? Like, get the ball to Klay. Get you some easy assists. And so that's my thing, man. I just, you know, I didn't have this problem last year with Austin because we didn't have other options. That's what it really comes down to. I didn't trust Taurean Prince like that, even though he was a very efficient three-point shooter. I didn't want him getting the ball a bunch of times like I want Dalton getting it with the intention of shooting. Hell no. You know what I mean? So it was more necessary that Austin do what he is now, kind of forcing us into doing with him having the ball in his hands more as a point guard. So I don't know, man. I think we can win this way. We have been winning this way. And if he's efficient, then look out. We're going crazy. You know what I mean? Because with him dominating the ball and hitting all of his shots, which never happens, but like if he were to get hot, oh yeah, he'd go for 30 points, 8 assists, 10 boards. Like, he's a big-time capable guy. But just from a night-to-night basis, he's doing more bricking than he is hitting. And it's just not, that's not a requirement at this point for him to take on that much of a load with that being his tendency. This is not a requirement. Rui, if Rui were a bit more consistent in that way, I would say it wasn't even beforehand. But Rui comes and goes. So I can't trust him to be that everyday scorer that I would expect Dalton Knecht is capable of being. I think he's an efficient shooter when he's hot, but I don't think Rui takes enough shots. I think that's the issue with Rui. Even on hot nights, he ain't attempting no more than 7 shots. And for him to be the player that I think he wants to ultimately become, he's got to be utilized more and trusted to be the efficient player that he's proven himself to be able to be. If anybody gets in the way of Rui, in my opinion, it's Rui, man. I really think that. I just don't think he's asserting himself as much as maybe his talent would allow him to. Some of that might have to do with other people on the floor getting a lot of shots while he's out there. But he gets lost in the offense at times. Now, I want to say that he probably shoots too much when he's not making shots. But I have to really look at the data to see if that's actually a thing. I don't know that that's really a thing. But it seems to me that sometimes when he's not shooting very well, he tends to shoot too much. But I don't know. I don't really know about that. But whatever the case may be, him getting like 9 points and 8 points on a given night, that's just him not being a part of the offense enough. Other people not allowing him to shine a bit may be a thing. Maybe, like I said, Austin being on the floor while he's on the floor, he may not get as many shots because Austin's jacking, AD jacking, Bron jacking. So it kind of takes away from what guys can do if they were in different roles where they were expected to do more. Maybe they get used to doing more, that kind of thing. I think that might be a Rui thing. But I just feel like Rui Hachimura is so much better than he's really been able to show us for the majority of this season thus far. I think the first 3 games are him at his best. After that, he just kind of got lost and got a little hurt and stuff like that. Missed games, personal reasons. I think something was going on. I don't know what it was, but maybe he just got derailed by whatever's going on off the court or whatever, the injuries. But when he comes back, I think he's going to be one of the most important players to monitor, because his role, I think, is shiftable. You can shift his role and feel good about it. You can move him to the bench and allow him to play the 4 a bit more. I think that might be a thing to consider, since we haven't playing the 3 almost full time these days as a starting player. Maybe allowing him to play a little more 4 when Bron's sitting down might be the way to get the most out of him. And then allowing him to have more focal point of those offensive situations. That way he's not sharing the floor with people who are going to shoot a lot. You know, there's something that I wanted to say too, I didn't really get a chance to touch on, but yesterday and a couple times leading up to it, we've put lineups on the floor where Bron is the only star. And you have like a Gabe Vincent and Cam Reddish, Christian Koloko, and then you ask Bron to just kind of spearhead. I hate those units. I don't like them. I don't like those units because what they end up doing in a lot of cases, in my humble opinion, is turning Bron into a shot jacker. And if Bron is on, he's a good player. When you know, has to take a lot of shots. Hey, Bron, when he's hot, let him fly. But when he's not hot and he's forced to be that because of the lack of offensive talent around him, I don't think he really shines in those situations. I don't think that's Bron's greatest look. As I've always said, he usually piggybacks off other people's energy, although that's not something that really gets utilized too much. He's usually best on the floor when the talent around him is very good. Not necessarily when the talent around him is very bad. And although he's dragged many bad teams to great places, so that probably doesn't hold much weight, I'm going by what it is I've seen as of late, not necessarily dating back to him historically, but just with the Lakers. Usually when we have him on the floor with a bunch of people that are not overly talented and not overly experienced, not only does it not equal him being very efficient, but I find that he gets frustrated. I find that he gets pretty frustrated. So, you know, that may not be very important in the grand scheme of things, but it's noteworthy. I just think we should continue experimenting with our second units. And if we're going to leave ourselves with only one star, don't ask it to be Bron. Ask it to be AD. I think AD probably will fare better in those lineups with everybody else being second and third string guys than Bron does, being the only star on the floor. And then D'Lo being like maybe the only other starish type of guy on the floor. That's not a good. I don't think that's a good mix. I didn't like what I saw yesterday. I think we were positive with it on the floor, but I just don't think it works against good teams. I don't think so. So, you know, it's probably nuanced. It depends on the team we're going up against. It might be necessary to do these type of things in situations where you need more defense on the floor. You know, maybe and maybe AD's in foul trouble or something. But just opting into lineups like that, I personally hate it. I hate when Bron's the only star on the floor. I think it's an eyesore. I think it doesn't work. All that. It's not good. So yeah, man, that's something I saw a little bit in the second quarter of the last game. Could live without it. So yeah, man, that's something I wanted to say. What else? I don't really know, man. That's kind of where my head is. Just want to talk a little bit about the Los Angeles Lakers as a whole. I'm so excited about this Orlando game. I hope you guys are as well. We've got this new floor, new jerseys that we're about to debut. All of that is really dope to me. I'm super excited about this 6-game winning streak. Equally excited about Dalton Knecht breaking out, showing everybody that he's exactly what I told you he is. You know what I mean? Because, you know, it was a little struggle here and there early on, especially when we didn't know what we had. People were using him the wrong way, asking him to do certain things that kind of take away from his overall superpower, so to speak. Let's get him the ball and tell him to shoot it from behind the arc. I think we found that corner shot, not necessarily from the far corner, but I don't know what they call that, in between the corner and the straightaway. That shot that usually is a high miss shot for most players. Most people can't seem to hit those shots consistently. That seems to be a sweet spot for him. He hit that three yesterday a lot. That left kind of, what is that? 5 o'clock-ish shot. I don't know if I would call that a 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever the hell that is. I'd say it's about 7 o'clock. Spot on the 3-point line. He's hitting, man. He's hitting. So, I'd like to see him kind of get schemed into taking those shots more and see if that can't continue to be a very sweet spot for him. Because that was really, really on fire yesterday, man, in the realest way. So, yeah, man, that's really what it is, man. Anthony Davis, we want to continue to see him go for that MVP, man. He's been rebounding the ball like a madman. 14 over the last 2 games, 14 each. I don't know how many boards he's averaging, but rarely do you see him get under 10. Rare. So this is just a phenomenal basketball player who needs his respect, man. People keep jerking him away from the Defensive Player of the Year. And I think he's going after the MVP. I keep telling people this is his year. He's healthy. The usage is high. And he's hitting shots, man, on top of all the other things that he does very well. So as long as we continue to give him those opportunities, I don't see why he can't be top 5 at the end of the MVP voting. I don't know if he would actually get it. I hope he does. But, I think we're in a space where after about 14 games, I legitimately think that he should be considered for MVP. Probably more so than he's been able to receive maybe his entire career. So, it's a lot of exciting stuff going on. I ain't gonna lie, man. When you see Dalton Knecht being this good this early, if he gonna continue to shoot like this, then you have to work into the equation that you got a star player on a rookie contract. That's what it really comes down to for me. If he's gonna play like this, that's a $200 million guy. You know what I'm saying? Like literally. Maybe even more if he keeps this up. So I think the Lakers now need to start scheming a way to assure that they can pay Dalton Knecht. That's where we are now. That's exactly where we are. We got to anticipate every bit of what his contractual situation could potentially be and prepare to pay him. And if for some reason you don't have his money, start scheming a way to make sure you get it. I think we're in a really good spot in the sense that Rui's contract is good, Austin's contract's good. So it's not like we have a bunch of ridiculous contracts. I was thinking to myself, like, yesterday, does it make sense to trade for a massive expiring contract like Ben Simmons to create the space at the end of the season? But when I looked at our books, I'm like, hell no, we're good. We're not the team that needs to do that. We don't have a bunch of bad contracts. There's only like 1 or 2 contracts on here that could be potentially not so great. And it's the Gabe Vincent contract is the only one that you really hate. Maybe Max Christie. But we want to see Max Christie's contract through. He's a valuable piece to what we are. Now, I can argue you could probably find the production that Max Christie's giving you defensively in a cheaper player. But I think the upside of Max Christie can make it so that you offensively, it comes around to where you're happy to have him on that contract. But, if I want to get 2 blocks, 2 steals, I got that in Cam Reddish. So, I still think he's intricate to what it is that we have, what we need right now. But if for some reason we draft another wing or something like that, it becomes expendable. You know what I mean? So that's a real thing. Max Christie and how important he's going to be in future. Because while our roster is constructed this way, he's extremely important. Let us make a certain trade that gets us a certain small forward that can guard the perimeter, and now all of a sudden his contract looks a whole lot worse because you just don't need him. You know what I mean? So that's something that you need to, as the Lakers front office, kind of like understand or behold or whatever, and then kind of make good decisions so that you can kind of cater yourself to be able to pay Dalton Knecht, whatever that looks like. Whatever that looks like. Because you got AD and Bron on massive contracts. Dalton, if things stay the way they are, he's going to be the 3rd guy you're going to put on a massive contract. And if you're not going to be willing to do that, then we're in a space where you gotta start entertaining the idea of trading Dalton Knecht. Because the last thing you want to do is let a player that talented walk for nothing. That you definitely do not do. But I'm telling y'all, I think you'll have people riding in the streets. We've been waiting for a shooter like this for years, man. Years. So if you want to piss the Laker fans off, trade away their shiny new toy. Because you don't want to pay them. It's a good way to do it. That's definitely a great way to do that. So, my opinion, you figure out how to make sure that you have his money. I don't know what kind of guy this is going to be. You got lucky with Austin Reeves taking on the contract he did. Maybe he wants to take a pay cut. Maybe he wants big bucks in his life. But his career trajectory at this point is pointed way up in the sky, man. And if I'm a betting man, it's going to be hard to get him for anything less than something really, really big. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, man. Sometimes it's not a blessing that a guy break out to this magnitude this early. Because you have certain trajectory on your books, what you can afford to do 3-4 years down the road, and a guy like this throws a whole monkey wrench in that entire process. And while you're happy to have him, you have to continue to build something that can win. And if you put him on the wrong contract, that can stump your ceiling in regards to what you can build that can win. LeBron and AD, now you're signing a non-defensive three-point shooting wing to a massive contract, and you can't afford to get anything else. You see what I'm saying? That's the type of stuff that we got to be able to like see coming and do something about. Like, shooters are extremely important. But is he $250 million important for us? Like, we already got to start thinking about that kind of stuff. So, we'll see. We're a long way away from knowing exactly what Dalton's value is going to be. But the hype machine surrounding Dalton Knecht is officially going to start right now. And if he keeps shooting like this, he's going to be paid, man. Somebody going to pay him. If it ain't going to be us, somebody going to pay him. So that's a no-brainer, man. That's why I always tell people this NBA thing is a fluid thing. It ain't going to stay the same. What you're looking at don't have to stay the same. Guys break out every day. BDF44, I thank you all for watching.